Heavenly Father, I love you and I thank you for this opportunity, and I yield to you, Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. Few definitions. Invocation. A call upon a deity to act as an authority. Rapport. A close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. Deliberate. Done consciously or intentionally. Communication. The act of conveying intended meaning to another entity through the use of mutually understood signs and semantic rules. The basic steps of communication are the forming of communicative intent, message composition, message encoding, transmission of signal, reception of signal, message decoding, and finally, interpretation of the message by the recipient. So somebody say, what is prayer? Prayer is an invocation or act that seeks to activate a rapport with an object of worship through deliberate communication. Simply put, prayer is God communicating with creation. You see that in Genesis. You can turn to Genesis chapter 1. I was taking my time with this and I had a lot of peace. You know, you sit down and you try to look up, Lord's Prayer and other scriptures of prayer. What is prayer? And then I thought about it, like, what is prayer? Like, who taught me prayer? Where did we get this prayer from? And then asking that, Lord, just show me, speak to me, right? So he says, turn to Genesis 1. And I loved it because I've never read it in this context. And so we're going to go to chapter 1, verse 1. It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. Boom. That's the origination of prayer. That's the first prayer ever done. God spoke to his creation, and it responded. He created the earth, and it was formless and void. He created it. But then he spoke to that creation. Let there be light. And light happened. Prayer is God communicating with creation. And oftentimes we've modern timed it to where prayer is this. God, I need everything that you can give me. Whenever you hear or think about prayer, this is what you see. On my knees. But I don't think we really understand or conceptualize what prayer actually is. It's communication between God and his creation. Now, reading the definitions of communication, where they understand one another, they have rapport with one another, they have a harmonized relationship. You know what I mean? So prayer is not, God, I'm hurting right now, I need you to heal me. Let me go clean these dishes. Prayer is not, Lord, you said you were going to do this, this is your word. If I was communicating with you and I was like this, Miss Jessica, can I get some water? How you doing, Megan? Can I get some water? You got a nice dress on. That doesn't make you feel in any way like I'm properly communicating with you, right? If I say, Ken, can I get $1? What you pausing for, man? You know you got it. Come on, man. You always being stingy. You talk about we friends. I can't get $1 out you, and I just gave you $1 last week. Right? Not on my timing. What you hesitating for? Now, you know I need it. Right? Is that proper communication? Did I even give you a chance? I just assumed in my own heart that you weren't going to do it. I got offended because you didn't do it right when I wanted you to do it. So, first of all, it says prayer is an invocation or act that seeks to activate a rapport with an object of worship through deliberate communication, right? And so an invocation, in a partial definition, is to call upon a deity as an authority. Now, Christians are not the only ones that pray. And invocations happen in many ways. Invocations are also like spells and possessions. The voodoo, people who do voodoo, that's an invocation. The Wiccans, what is it, the goddess of the moon or something like that, they do invocations. Everyone is praying because these deities do exist. Our God is not the only God that exists, but he's the one true God. The way, the truth, and the life, the path to righteousness and peace. However, if he was the only one, then the devil wouldn't exist. And neither of the other deities that the devil have around him. Have you ever seen or witnessed, or you can even look at the movie of a person possessed? Especially the true story was like Emily Rose, a person possessed. That's an invocation. That's a demonic possession, and there's another invocation where they said that the spirit is just riding you. But the difference is we seem to be the only ones who can't properly call upon our deity as a person of authority to really get him to move. Is it him or is it us? Do we really know what prayer is? Or do we just do what somebody else showed us? Like, what is prayer to you? What did you originally, do you have a relationship with him? Because that was like my seed. And then when I read this, I was like, that's why it works for me. That's why I laid hands on my wife the night of our wedding and stomach virus went away. That's why I had a sty on my eye and it went away in 30 minutes when I laid hands and prayed on it. Because my original relationship with God was him to prick me and say, read the Bible. And I didn't understand or know who it was. I'm like, well, I got an itch to read the Bible. And then I opened the Bible. I responded to that itch. And then he showed me all types of miracle stuff. He touched me and spoke to me. My whole life changed from that point. And since then, I was talking to him about wisdom and everything. I had a communication with him. So is prayer only us talking first? Is this prayer, God, I love you? Is that prayer? Or is it also listening? Is prayer just speaking or is it also listening? Because if prayer is a communication, if you take the word prayer off, all you're doing is communicating. But we took the religious aspect, which is not bad. We need our religious aspects because that's a form of discipline that we talk to God with, and we've made it to where it's not really communication if my heart's not there. My mouth is there. My mind might be on what I'm asking for, but my heart is not in this communication right now. I could be praying, and then my mind start wandering. That's not a focus or an intent. That's just, hey, you said if I do this, you're going to do this. There's no relationship. Prayer is not always you need something. When was the last time in the cool of the day you just asked him a question and knew he was going to answer you? That he was going to talk back to your spirit, building that relationship. Now that, we've met one another, right? Think about before you met somebody. Like my brother John here. No one's really met him. Now, I can tell you about John based on our communication or what, how I think he is. And you can go, or you could tell me about John. And I'll say, okay. So now I look at John and I say, hey, bald head. But John might not like that. But I never got to know John to know that John, hey, I don't like being called that. You know what I mean? I never got to know John to know that John likes to communicate this certain way. John likes to go out over here. John likes this. John likes that. He doesn't like this. He doesn't like that. So when we pray, does God often like the way we communicate with him? Or is it just based on someone saying, this is how you pray? Was it ever developed in you in a unique way? Because everyone is dealt with in a unique way. The way I talk with Ken, I may not talk with Pastor Jay. I may not talk with Marcus about it. I definitely don't talk to anybody the way I talk with Mr. Martin. That's our relationship. There's something that sparks whenever Mr. Martin and I talk business. There's something that sparks whenever Pastor Jay and I talk business. That's our relationship or ministry. That's our relationship. What is your relationship with God? What sparks when you speak to him? We said that prayer and religion is our discipline, right? And I just want to put this on us as people because I was thinking about it. And we know Muslims to be, some people say terrorists because of stuff they did. Oftentimes we connect a Muslim with prayer. They pray a lot. 6 times a day. Are you Muslim? But she knows they pray 6 times a day, right? And most of us do. They pray to the east, to Jerusalem, right? Man, and ain't none of us Muslim. Okay, a Buddhist. We associate a Buddhist with what? Meditation. They meditate a lot. It's like, oh, they do. Do they eat? Do they go anywhere? Do they have fun? They always bald and just sitting still thinking. But none of us are Buddhists, right? But we understand they are meditators. Okay. Jehovah's Witness. That thought right there that popped in everybody's head. They knock on your door, right? They had everybody's door, right? Evangelizing. That's what we know them for. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, but I've met a couple. You know what I mean? So what are Christians? What are we associated with? Because everybody doesn't have to be a Christian to associate us with what we say and believe. Because they're not Muslims, they're not Buddhists, and they're not Jehovah's Witness, but they know these people for doing the acts and what they do, right? And being devout in that. Devout means with the purpose and an intent. So what do they say about Christians? We could be real. Hypocrites. Now that doesn't mean that everybody in here is a hypocrite, but that means collectively as a body, that's what we're associated with. That's the truth to the world. And even though they got Muslims bombing stuff, they still know them for what? Prayer. Right? So, if they only know us for hypocritical acts, that's our fruit. We gotta hold on to that. We can't just say, no, well, I'm not a hypocrite. That's them. Because as a body, we are one. And as a body, if there's something wrong and we're not changing it, then we accept it. So, if God called us to pray, and prayer has different forms. When you pray and you're communicating, it says that it could be done in songs and hymns. It could be done in meditation. It could be verbal or silent. Why do we feel like there's only one way to pray? Why is it, okay, praise and worship, I sing these songs. I'm praising them. Give me praise, I think. And then altar call, I'm good. I don't need none of that. We never really connect. We come to church and it's like, I'm here. You know, gotta do what you're gonna do. Show me something. But where is our heart in this aspect? What do you really want? Because people speak out of their mouths, but their heart is who they really are. And I tell my family all the time, people speak out of intentions, what they really want to do, but who they really are is what they do. So, if we come to church, we really want to please you. But where's our heart in this? And whenever you pray, you can say whatever you want to say. If your heart doesn't line up with it, are you fooling God? So when you pray, are you praying so we can hear you? Or are you really talking to him? And if you being fake in the matter to where you're just talking so we can hear you, how can you be mad and call God fake when he doesn't come and answer that? Is God fake or you? Now you can change that by really giving it an effort. If I really wanted to know anybody in here, I would give it an effort. No matter how many times I met you, I'm going to get to know who you are and make my own decisions. I'm not going to, if they gossiping about one another, and now I look at you like, I know all your business. I'm not that kind of person. I give everybody a clean sheet. Who do you want to be? Because God gave me a clean sheet. He doesn't judge me based on my past, thank God. He actually changed my whole life to who he knows I am to be. So I'm not going to come with a preconceived notion. People come to church with a preconceived notion like, oh, this is fake. Why are you doing that? You judge what you don't understand, but you don't seek to understand it. You just judge it. Let's get back to prayer. We are originally birthed and born into prayer. That is the source of our life. God says, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. It says, then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. And in 27 it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female, he created them. We're going to continue on. And it says, we're going to go all the way to 30. And it says, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and over every living creature that moves on the ground. Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food, and to all the beasts of the earth and all the birds of the air and all the creatures that move on the ground, everything that has breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food, and it was so. Right? So that was prayer. As we know in communication, he created the man. He said, we're going to make him in likeness and image. And he told them exactly what's going on. He communicated with them. Now, before I go, I'm going to pause right there. We know communication with God's people is him speaking and then responding. That's prayer, right? So when God created the earth, and he said, let there be light, he spoke it, and it what? Responded, right? When he said, let there be waters, and he separated everything, he spoke it, and it happened, right? Okay, then he said, let the beast come from the earth, and let them reproduce their own. Let the birds fly and the fish swim, right? He spoke it, and it was so. What has changed today? Do birds still fly? Do fish still swim? Okay, does the earth not, the sun rotate night and day? Did he not separate the light and the dark and it made day and night? That's still happening? Yeah. Okay, is the heavens separate from the waters on the ground? Yeah. Do the waters and the rivers rush over and they get out of place? Is it just water everywhere on the land? Because he spoke it and it responded, right? And it was creation, right? Okay, so what's wrong with humans? So he spoke to us the same way he spoke to them. And now you could say, well, they just live off instinct and plants don't talk back and birds and fish, they just do whatever they do. You could say that. But in the simplest term, they have the same life we have in us. It says, what is the difference is it from man and animal? They both have the same flesh. They live and they die the same way. He spoke to them the same way he spoke to us. They're still living out their purpose. So therefore they live. Don't they? Does a bird work? Does a fish go to work? But they're fed every day is what God said. Right? He says, I scorched the earth with the sun, but the grass still grows. Because he spoke it and it's so. His creation responded. Is there a time when creation did not respond? Yes. Yes, there is. Twice. I'll do the first one. When Jesus walked past the fig tree, that was a tree. That tree don't talk. That tree don't bother nobody. That tree has life in it. So that means that tree was given a purpose, right? God spoke, and that tree should be doing exactly what God spoke it to do, right? So he goes up to the tree, a fig tree, not an apple tree, not an orange tree. God wasn't looking for nothing but the figs that were supposed to be on it. He wasn't judging it based on anything else. Like you ain't even got pecans. He wasn't judging on anything else other than what he told it that it should be doing. So God, Jesus, as God walking on this earth, because he was a human, therefore he had dominion over everything on this earth. He was made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore he is a smaller deity. He walks up to the tree to look for the fruit. Yo, you don't have any fruit? You have one job. You have one job. Ain't that what he said? You got one job on this earth. Only one purpose to be coming out of this ground, and you cannot fulfill it. You will die. It's just a tree. The disciples look at him like, you tripping. It's a tree. But God understood everything that has life. Everything that has life should be responding to God. You say it won't. God himself says, if you do not, the rocks will cry out in your place. He also made a donkey talk English or whatever language he spoke. It can happen. Okay, so let's go back to the garden. Snakes, if you want to go scientifically, they found fossil snakes had legs at one point. So the snake is just a snake off instinct, such an innocent creature, right? Well, the Bible doesn't say Satan tempt Eve. It said the serpent tempt Eve. And the serpent being all cunning, which means crafty and wise. I guess it was influenced. We can say it was influenced. But it spoke And Eve responded. However, she was communicating with the wrong deity, which caused death in the whole camp. So there's many deities, but only one true deity. So you have to be careful who you're communicating with. And we can say, be careful who you're praying to. So whenever this happened and God got a hold of people, he asked the man, what did you do? He said, it was that woman. He passed on his authority. It was the woman. She made me do it. Okay. What did you do? And that serpent did it. She passed authority to the animal. So he cursed the animal. Do snakes to this day not slide on their bellies without legs? So he spoke it and it responded. Do women not have menstruals and birth pains to this day? He spoke it and it responded, right? So make sure you're praying the right things to the right deity. Make sure your heart is right in the matter, because it said that Eve saw the fruit good for wisdom. So in her mind, wisdom weighed more than the words of God. So yeah, I'm going to get this, because even though he told me, my husband directly not to do this, he spoke this thing, we did something else. So they didn't respond the right way, which caused a curse on their life. So I'm going to put this in there because I missed it. I'm going to come back to it. A tree, a plant, anything, they can live as long as they're connected to their soil, right? What purpose is a fish that can't swim? What purpose does a bird have that can't fly? They have birds that can't fly, right? Are they much? Do they have a purpose? Do they just walk around and basically like a little chicken, just I can't do what I'm here to do, right? So what good is the human who can't communicate and respond to his God and fulfill the purpose that he originally put inside of us, to subdue this earth and fulfill everything? The original prayer. The original prayer. What good is the fish? What good is this chair if you fall right now? You're purposeless. I'm throwing you away. Right? What good is this mic if it stops working? It's not fulfilling its purpose. Right? So what are we to God? Are we broken? Are we not doing what we're here to do? Are we like a bird that can't fly? You ever seen a bird try to fly and it can't fly? It's depressing. Bird just jumping and flying. I know I should be able to do something. But the main thing is, if you uproot that plant, if you uproot that tree, that bird that can't fly, that fish that can't swim, they just, until they die. Because they're out of their source. They're out of their element. They're not doing what they were supposed to do. So when you pull a tree or a plant out of the ground, you pull that rose out, it's pretty for a little bit, but it's dying. It's on the steady track of dying, right? Because you pulled it out of the ground. It's dying now. It can't live for as long as it was probably going to live before you defiled it. That fish that can't swim, he's just waiting to get eaten. He just floating and trying to get some food to stay alive for a little bit longer. And, hopefully I could keep living. But what is he doing? He's just flowing with the currents, hoping nothing happens to him. Hoping this fish. Oh, I see the fish. Come on, please, Jesus, please, Jesus, please, Jesus. Come on. I wish I had fins. I wish I could swim. Blow harder, Jesus. Blow the wind harder. Let the currents flow faster, Jesus. All that prayer, but he's not in his element and not in his purpose. Yeah, God can make the current go faster, but how much longer is that going to sustain you? That's your prayer for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. You're just hoping. Let me make it again, please. Let me make it again, please. Ooh, get me close to that one. That look good. Let me that little worm. Give me a little worm. But you can't do anything for yourself. You're purposeless. There's no point. You better hope somebody catch you and you become purpose to a human. A good old fish. That's what you better hope. And a bird. A bird that doesn't fly is eventually going to die. Ants will kill him. You ever seen a little baby bird getting tore up by ants? Because them ants know, hey, you should have been flying, homie. Now you're food. Now you're food. You don't belong down here. So what is a human? What purpose did he give us originally? And are we fulfilling that? Or are we just a waste? If he cannot properly communicate with us, Because communication is also listening. You dealt with any of us humans. Somebody who just talks to you all day and talk at you all day and never listens or hears you is demoralizing. You're like, you don't even care. I don't even want to talk to you no more. I'm not saying God gets that way, but he can get that way to where you don't hear him and he don't hear you. Live until you die. Just die, whatever. Because he has no purpose in you. He has no stock inside of you. He created you, but you're not fulfilling it based on your lack of communication and your response to what he said. What has he said to you? If you started talking to me and I was like, oh, okay, and I just kept walking, did I listen to you? Are we communicating? Am I respectful to you? How many of us can't hear God's voice? And because we can't hear, we think it don't exist. But where's your heart at? Where's your state? I tell people all the time, my phone works 2 ways. You ain't call me. My phone works 2 ways. I didn't see the urgency in you calling me either. I'm busy, but I still love you. But as far as us building our relationship, how far does that go? Besides every time we see each other, oh, man, I ain't heard from you in a minute. Oh, you ain't called me. Where does the extent of our relationship go from there? Does it increase? Prayer is from the heart, not the mouth. And I spoke about that earlier, but we'll go to Genesis chapter 4. And I believe that we feel if we say the right things, get in the right position, that God is going to hear us. And that person that's standing over there not doing too much, they need to work on their prayer. You need to get stronger in your prayer. Right? The person who's yelling it up here, tearing it up. That's what we call it, tearing it up. Yeah, in the name of Jesus. And it sound all good. Man, that person's strong. That person's tearing it up. Then I get up here, or whoever get up here and just, Lord, we thank you for this and that. Speak up, man. Say it with your chest. You know what I'm saying? You're talking to God right now. You're supposed to have some type of power when you speak. Right? Why is there a wrong and a right way? How can you tell which one is wrong or right? Okay, well, one comes from the heart and one's just a bunch of noise. Now, if out of your heart, your mouth speaks and it comes out authoritative, there it is. If out of your heart, you thinking about TV, but your mouth speaks, or your heart is just, your mind is just blank. You're just saying stuff, just thinking of what to say. You stumble over a word, you're like, God dang it, I messed up my prayer. I didn't go through it perfectly this time. I stuttered a little bit. I had to stop and think. I coughed or something. Like, what does it matter what you say if your heart is not lined up? So, we're going to look at Cain and Abel. Verse 3. I'm going to read verse 3 through 7. It says, in the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. But Abel brought fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? If you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must master it. So they both were doing the same thing, offering up a sacrifice, which is what we do. Praise and worship, prayer. You cleanse yourself. Back in the day, before they went into the temple, he said, sanctify yourself. In the Mosaic days, sanctify and consecrate yourself. Cleanse yourself before you enter into my presence. All the Levites, the ones that went into God's presence for the people, right? So they couldn't just go in any kind of way. There was a reverence and a respect in the way they did it. Their heart had to be clean and pure and focused on God before they actually went into this deity as an authority. So when Cain and Abel were offering up their sacrifices, Cain worked the land. He tilled the earth. And Abel worked the flocks. And I learned when I did pastor appreciation, the weaker of the sons always worked the flocks. It was considered a menial job. You sit up there and you take care of the flocks and the sheep. That's what you did. So Abel was also considered the weaker. And you had Cain out there just tearing up the land, planting the fruits and the crops. That's what they ate off of. They getting everything ready. And so when it's time to bring out a good portion, an offering to God, They both brought a portion. They both brought an offering based on where they came from, the blessings that they had. But it seemed like Cain might have had an attitude with it. Like, I'm working way too hard to give you my hard-earned crops, brother. And then all you want me to do is burn them up? How is this even getting to you? What do you do with you're supposed to be God? What does this even matter to you? Right? What you going to do with these crops? There's smoke. What is it? But Abel, he must have tapped into, God, you said a thing and I'm going to respond. Just because you said it, I got it. Yes, this is for you. Okay, I'm going to give you my best. His heart was different. Right? Because what does it matter what God does with it after it's gone? What does it matter if you pay your tithe? Man, I'm giving all my money. Man, I ain't giving God enough money. He ain't even getting it. What God going to do with this money? Ain't the love of money the root of all evil? What do you want with it? All these judgments and these second thoughts, but God spoke and you should be responding. I think the problem with humans is our intellect and our free will. Would we rather be like a rock? You're just going to sit here until God come back. He's going to add on to you, take away from you. And if you think about it, animals don't necessarily be on instinct because they all have a choice. Animals make decisions. Like the snake made a decision. Perfect example. Anybody have a dog? No dog lovers in here? You have a dog. You have a dog. I have a dog, right? Thor. When I first met this dog, he did not know me. And if you know Thor, if you don't know you, he don't want nothing to do with you, right? So my voice didn't necessarily mean much to him when I said, hey, come here, or go over there, get in your little cage, we're about to leave, right? At one point, the dog would run because he knew we were about to leave. He would take off, run upstairs and hide under the bed. Like, I ain't going in that little cage. Doing whatever he want to do, right? He knows that I could listen to you or I'm going to go do what I want to do because I don't feel like going in that cage, right? So he made a decision. So at this time, I got to go to work. I flipped the bed. I grabbed him by his collar. Let's go. Take him downstairs. You're in your cage. Fast forward. My dog would not move unless I tell him to this day. If I open my front door, some dogs go flying out the door. I want to go outside and you're not stopping me. Right? My dog would sit there and be like, can I go outside, please? And if I say, no, stay, he sits there, whether he wants to or not. He's obedient. He's loyal. And because of his obedience and loyalty, I love the mess out of him. I love him. How do you feel when your children are obedient? When your children are listening to what you're saying, you don't have that stress on your heart. You're like, yes, thank you. I love you. What do you want? Let me reward this behavior. Right? How do you feel about that? The same way I love my dog because he's so loyal and obedient to the T. I can sit outside and say, hey, don't go too far. Stay in this area. He will literally stay in an area, and if I'm still outside, he'll come and sit right next to me while I'm working on my truck or whatever. Obedience. He responds to my voice. So if that's the fruit of obedience and loyalty, what are we to God? Are we more like the cat? Like, I don't know who you talking to, you, and I really don't feel like being touched right now. I'm going to sit over here and just look at you while you speak to me, and I'll come when I feel like it, you know? And when I come, you better pet me, or I'm just going to rub all over you. I might scratch you, and you're going to get this work. You're going to rub me. You're going to do this, right? Cats are real. They know what they want. They get what they want. And if they don't want it, I'll run, and you're not going to catch me. I'm not like that dumb dog, right? So are we more like the wise cat or the dumb dog? Which one is worth more to you? The loyalty or the smartness? We call the dog dumb because he's loyal. We call the dog dumb because he'll come to you when you call him. If you run, he'll take off running with you if he's loyal to you. He don't even know why we running. We running. Ears flapping, tongue out, we running. I don't know where we going. Where we going? I'm following you. I'm excited now. You see my dog get excited, he start running circles. Like, yeah. I don't know what we doing, but I like it. That's the loyalty, the companionship of a dog, right? Not knocking cats. Cats are cool for what they're cool for, but in the aspect of loyalty and obedience, a dog would die for you. A cat might go get help. The cat gonna get up out of there, and you better follow the cat. The cat like, oh, something's up. Ah, let me out. Let's go. Let's go. But that dog will sit there with you. That dog might get frantic, like, come on, we gotta move. But he'll sit there with you. How many times do you hear about cats rescuing humans? There's a couple stories. But more so you see a dog going to rough waters and grab somebody and drag them back. You have the term of a guard dog. You don't have a term of a guard cat. That's because a dog has loyalty in his heart and obedience. An animal can be trained, right? So that means they have an ability to learn and make a decision. If an animal can do it, why can we not do it? Because animals do it and they still fulfill their purpose. They have a choice. And they'll wind up like the snake. God only had to make one example. God only had to make one example in the animal kingdom. And everybody got the message. Yo, your legs are gone. You just had legs. Now you got to crawl around on your stomach. You lower than all of us. Oh, yeah, we good. Ain't worth all that. You know, I just do what I'm supposed to do. Remember you seen one of your siblings get that good old whooping? And you was like, man, it ain't even worth it, dog. Y'all go ahead. I ain't finna get me today. It ain't worth it, right? So why do we challenge God in what he says? Is it worth it? Is our life much better if we challenge him like that? Because a curse comes from disobedience. It's as a sin of witchcraft. Disobedience means you're not obeying. But how do you know what to obey? Man, I can't hear God's voice. He don't speak to me. What is the Bible? A big old prayer. Because he's